Tell me your origin story. How did this get started for you? What is Chelsko?
I'm a bit of an oxymoron, an anomaly, if you will. I grew up, first of all, in a very conservative Christian household, which would almost seem that they're from the South when they're absolutely not. In the middle of Malibu, California, which is probably the most liberal place in the entire universe. So I was the ugly duckling straight out the womb. Like I just stuck out like a sore thumb. I was that token Christian kid. Um, and that shaped me in so many ways. When I was younger, like looking back at my younger self, I wish I would have embraced that, but instead I fought it, right? You feel different. You feel like not accepted and not cool and not pretty. And, I had kids at a very young age being like, oh, you're allowed to wear makeup, just very ostracized by the culture I was in. Now, my nature is very rebellious. And what I've learned as I grow is a lot of people, two people can come from the exact same family, exact same place, but part of it is just the cells we're given, right? The brain that we have. And mine is by nature a rebellious one. So it actually spurred me into being more Christian, right? Because that was my identity. And so the more I had people telling me, you should try smoking weed, you should cuss, you should this or that, I went the other direction and built this identity in sticking it to the man and being like, no. And then what happened is my whole world flipped when I started going to private schools. Because then all of a sudden I was with a bunch of Christians. So now I'm not proving anything to them. So there goes my identity right out the door, right? Because all of this is to say, and it continues to basically we relearn the same lesson over and over and over until we listen, right? Finding my identity in some other thing than God, even in Christianity. Even Christianity isn't God, right? And so I had to relearn, and pride came before the fall so many times. Um, and I continued to try to control my fate, even though I loved the Lord, even though I, grew up in a Christian household and was given this wisdom and had a relationship very young with the Lord and dug into that and found it for myself. I continued to try to be my stubborn self and, make way with my own path, beat to my own drum. And that has led to a very exciting, but at times difficult life for me that wasn't necessary. A lot of the problems I brought upon myself by making decisions that I thought were going to be the right way, dating the wrong people, putting myself in situations that no one told me to do that. I mean, culture does, right? But, and I learned lessons and I grew up. I feel like I grew up very slowly and then all at once because I was so sheltered up through high school. So I was sheltered but in public schools, and then I was in private schools, but still sheltered, and well, sheltered even more because now I'm in private schools. And then I went to private colleges, and then I came out, and the world was like, guess what? It's wild out here, and you're not prepared. You have no idea, and you think that you're a perfect little Christian who didn't drink and was saving yourself for marriage, and that no one can hurt you and that no one can bring you down because you're that good. And I just fell smack on my face and was humbled. As my business partner Kate would say, took a big piece of humble pie, right? And so I spent years after college, between college and now, um, finding myself and finding my identity and finding my voice. Ironically, singing has been my career. I went to school for theater, so I thought it was going to go that way. And then the Lord kind of pivoted me towards music. And then I started getting in these bad relationships. And music was my outlet. Music was my therapy to kind of navigate this crazy story that I was going through. And as I was just finding out what the world's really like, what people are like when they're not the safety and comfort of my home. And my family on both sides were just strong, Christians and very simple. Like, the worst thing that happened was probably like my cousin leaving the house and going to live with my aunt. Like, that's as wild as it got, like there was no drama, no alcohol, no, no abuse, no, like I had no concept of the darkness of the world. And having the savior complex coming from a home that is, again, about being Christian and loving on people, I kind of warped that in a way. And I mean, that's a whole nother episode, but my childhood upbringing, for whatever reason, led to me to have this savior complex. And instead of getting my value from the Lord, I got it from thinking I needed to help other people. And as a barrel will turn, bad with one bad apple, if you have one bad apple and only one good apple, that the good apple is effed, So I continued putting myself in situations where I thought that I was going to fix them, whether that be friendships or relationships, or I learned the lesson over and over, as we will until the Lord shows us, and or until we learn, rather. And I just had phenomenal experiences along the way, even with the craziness, even with the not so great decisions, even with the selfishness and thinking I was in control, naivety. The whole time, like, I don't look back at a single period of my life, and even when I was being abused, I don't look at a single period of it and be like, that really sucked. In the moment, I was like, God's got me. Like, I'm having a great time. I had no idea like how much of a great time I wasn't really like how much better my life could have been. Because I just am a very silver lining girly. And but I had enough experiences where I realized enough is enough and I do deserve better when it comes to love. And that the biggest thing is my savior complex kicked in when I was on MTV, and I realized thousands of girls are going to watch me and they're going to see what I'm allowing and they're going to allow it. And then that's on me. And that burden, I took very seriously. And it works this way a lot for us people, right? All of a sudden, when you're hurting someone else, it's more serious than when you are hurting yourself. When something you're doing, oh, I'm only hurting myself. But when you realize you're hurting someone else, it kind of wakes you up. So that was my first kind of wake up call. I continued to have this be in the cycle of abuse, but finally during COVID walked away. And along this whole way, I'm making beautiful music because, the best artists, look at Taylor Swift, all of her songs are about breakups. They're not about, I'm so glad it's going well. I got married last night. Like, that's not the story. Yeah. So I was very blessed to be able to also have really incredible producers and really positive people in my life, alongside the few negative choices. And so I poured myself into music. I was able to be still cast on some shows somehow, like very almost in a way living in two lives, right? But after COVID, when COVID hit, it was a big this is it moment. And I went home with my family, and halfway through COVID, I was like, I need to run. I need to run for my life, or I'm going to go back to what I just worked so hard to get away from. And so I fled in the middle of COVID, the worst time ever, drove across the country and moved to Connecticut. Continued working on my music there. And then after a period of time of really being alone and finding that I really enjoy, well, I had my friend, but she was at work, and what I learned to be okay alone. I didn't date. I didn't have any communication with men at all. I didn't really have any friends other than my one friend, so I'd see her when she came home from work. I learned to enjoy solitude. I learned to really like dive into that relationship with the Lord and my music, and that was it. And it was simple and it was beautiful, and I didn't rely on any other outside source for my happiness. And so when I came back to LA, I was in a much better headspace and I got into my first healthy relationship. And then that ended 2 years ago, and I moved to Seattle for an even further movement in my process, which you could say was spurred on by a boy still, because my ex had moved to Seattle and I was like, ding, ding, that's a good idea. But I had been applying for all these jobs, randomly, of course, get a job offer in Seattle. And I was like, well, fancy seeing you here, just show up not too long after he moved there. Ironically, though, like, and that's how the Lord moves sometimes. He'll put a little incentive to get you to do something, and you think you're going for that, but you're really not. I probably saw him a handful of times living there for a year, but I needed to prove to myself that not only did I not need all these outside sources, but I didn't even need like my family. Like I didn't need anyone. Like I needed to have that bad bitch moment where I was like, I don't need anyone. And I did it for a year. And the rehumbling of that experience is that at the end of it, I was like, okay, we get it. We get it. Everyone gets it. You can do it by yourself. We know. But like you do, you need people. You need fellowship. You need family. You need love. It was very lonely. And I realized, okay, yes, I am capable. The point has been proven. You can go home now, kind of thing. So I moved back home, and I lost my job because they just went and let a ton of people go. Best thing that has ever happened to me. And I'm telling you, like, I look back on my life and there are some pivotal moments where very few of them, where I was like, this actually sucks. One of them was right before I got that job. I didn't get the job that I really wanted. And I remember sitting on the floor and something else happened. Like my car broke and just all these things happened in one day. And I just remember being like, this is the worst day of my life. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me, because then immediately I got that job to Seattle and that changed my life. And then I lost my job in Seattle. And again, it was like, but at this point, I learned to be like, okay, well, I guess, sink or swim. And it was the best thing ever happened to me, because then I decided I'm going to go full force and just focus on my social media, which I had been doing for some time for my music, but I didn't really trust myself to live off of my own earnings just from Instagram and music and the things I wanted to do. I always had a side hustle that I felt like I needed, as a little, like as they say in Think and Grow Rich, burn all your bridges. And I hadn't. And so the Lord burnt that last one for me, and it threw me in the deep end, and I began swimming like a freaking Olympic swimmer. And I was like, oh my gosh, never would have known I could do this. And at that point, I realized, why am I doing music? I do music to help people, to help young girls hopefully learn from my stories. And then I also realized, if I've been basically helping men improve their lives by dating them for years, why do I keep doing something I'm good at for free? So I decided I'm just going to start life coaching. Maybe they'll actually listen. Like I was like sitting there thinking, if I can, and because I look back at every one of these people I was with, and their lives did improve, some very drastically. I at one point dragged one of them to go get this job that changed his life. It was a phenomenal job he never would have gone to if I didn't drag this grown man kicking and screaming. And so I was like, imagine if I used this gift and this desire to help people better themselves, who actually want it, who are paying me to do it and proving to themselves that they're willing to show up. And so I did. I started this company, met my business partner within a month, and it just took off. And here we are now. And actually, I think this is my first time telling that story, since everything has changed in the past 6 months. I had an Instagram that I wasn't using that had 4,000 followers. It is at 106,000 followers now. Every door has just flung open while I just sat there versus the rest of my life me banging on doors and they just didn't open because God was like, that's not the right one. And this one, this phase of my life, all I'm doing is showing up.
There's a quote that I read. So I read 5 pages of Think and Grow Rich when I'm actually not on transit before I start working every day. And it forces me to slow down and to notice things that I never would have normally noticed. And there's a quote that no matter how many times I read it, comes back to me over and over and over. Like to the point that you ever get impacted and you just like, ah, and you got to take a second to breathe. And I send a picture and they're so probably so tired of it. A group of kind of business owners in the Okinawa area, and I like take a picture of it and send it to them. And I'm like, I'm positive the next time I do it, they're gonna be like, this is the eighth time you've sent the same quote, the same picture. What are you doing? Like, come on, man. But it's the quote where riches when they come so fast in such large quantities that one wonders where they were hiding all of those lean years, right? And from what you're describing to me in this kind of progression and story, and thank you for covering all of that, it sounds like you hopped into, for lack of better words, alignment with something. You have hop you just it things just kind of clicked and aligned over the last few months, and all of those, as you described, banging on those doors just kind of wasn't. I mean, it was probably good, but it wasn't going where you wanted it to. It wasn't exactly that thing. And then as soon as you stepped in, to the proper alignment, their quotes, that's kind of a buzzword, I think, similar to authenticity, but I think you know what I mean by alignment, where now it's just clicking, right? So before I ask this one, I do want to ask, what denomination did you grow up?
Non denom.
Okay. So did I. I grew up Church of Christ in Southern California for only a few years, and then when we were moved out to the Nashville area. So I know exactly how you feel in terms of even when you're not standing out, you're kind of a leper in the group, like you're
Yeah, I agree. And it was interesting for me because I never fit in anywhere. I didn't fit in at the church and I didn't fit in at the school. I was the black sheep at the church. I was too wild because I was a public school, so I was probably smoking weed. And then at church, I mean, at the school, I was, too good, so I definitely wouldn't smoke weed. Like, just like these extreme assumptions were always being made. And it was an exhausting place to be, and I just wanted somewhere to fit in. And now I'm so glad there's nowhere I fit in because I'm not anyone else. And that's okay. That's what makes me different.
100%. So you're not the only one. I've talked to people all and worked quite closely with people of all ranges, from zero to start, when they're just starting out, to multiple millions, to even hundreds of millions of followers, subscribers, blah, 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 blah. And I came across something that you had talked about that I thought was very relevant. And I think it was when, don't quote me on the numbers, people, but I think it was when you went from 3,000 to 10,000 followers. It was kind of like this jump, this big jump you had. And you just said something I thought was fascinating because it's so unanimous across every range of people that I talk about. And you said there's this weird, people want your time more than ever, right? People want to connect with you more than ever. And in a positive way, they're impacted by your story more than ever. But still, there's an element of increased loneliness that goes along with it.
It was, I struggled with social media for so long because I had the followers and I was on MTV and then I was on Disney, so I got followers, but it didn't really feel like I had followers, and I bought followers, so I messed it up. And I just this feeling of just not enough, not enough, not enough. And then once I learned, I took a risk and restart my whole page, even though my other page was verified. So forever I was hanging on to that like a child. And I was like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna balls to the wall and try to restart and start sharing quotes more. I remember, I'm like pulling back into my brain to when that happened. I remember feeling like it was so exciting at first when I restarted doing it organically, all organically, and then saw the real audience start really growing again for the first time in a long time, because my page was not blocked by things. Um, and yet it was just like all these people, but no one really saw me. All these people, but no one really knew me. And it, the lonely in the crowd feeling came back again. Um, And I think since then, it's definitely shifted because I'm just not affected by the number anymore because I feel like I've just been through that rodeo so many times now that I see the people in my DMs and I see them as people that want love, that want to be heard, that want to be, and I welcome, I see my Instagram as a space that's like a safe haven, and I want them to feel at home, and I want to try to do what I can to help, but I'm not as focused on I just needed to get to a million. I'm more focused on that one girl that's in a abusive relationship. And if that DM comes through, that's for me success. And so I think that the viewpoint has shifted for me. So I for sure get excited when a video hits a million or whatever, whatever, but that's not the goal. The goal is to reach as many people as possible so I can help as many people as possible by any means. If anyone is in the situations that I was in, if I could help them, if I could give them just one piece of knowledge, that will change their lives and get them to feel the happiness that I feel now. It's this excitement to share and give them. It's like I got the golden ticket and I want everyone else to have the golden ticket. It's that kind of feeling. But yeah, I do remember being in that space where I was just like, it's happening all over again. This all these people see me, but no one sees me.
Did you have someone in your life in particular, when that kind of feeling crept back in, like a best friend or somebody that you were able to confide in?
Yeah, I've been really blessed with, and it's been a very intentional choice over the past, and that's one thing I teach about. Show me your friends, I'll show you your future, period. I think that your circle is very, very important. I think that it's important to have it small and quality, because I had a million friends and they didn't care about me. I will never forget, I had a birthday at a club and my clubbing friends didn't even show up for the club. I was like, if you can't even club with me, what is the point? Like, what is the, and my sister came with me and we had the best time, and I think left early from my own birthday, and it was just like, I was like, this is all I need. She is the entertainment of the evening. I don't need to be here. I don't need bottle service. I don't need my name on a poster. Like, I don't need any of that. I need the people that actually care. Um, and I realized I was been selfish too and poured all my energy and all these friends and all the socialite and the events and the things and the this and that instead of pouring into the people that care about me the most. And that's another lesson I've had to relearn and relearn. But yeah, so I've been very blessed in that phase of my life, and going forward I've continued to be very intentional about my friends. And I used to have a lot of guy friends too, a lot of guy friends. And I just want to put this out here for all you girlies because I know there's some of you out here that do this, right? It's so easy to have guy friends because they'll hang out with you, but everybody knows what they actually want. But you're okay with it because you don't want that, but you know that it's convenient, you know they're going to show up. And you don't want to deal with the girls, but the girls are extra effort. And the girls don't want to sleep with you, so they're harder to hang out with and they're harder to make plans with, and especially the ones that are doing things with their lives because they're very busy and that's exhausting. And then they might even do something even scarier, which is what's the word? Challenge you to be the best version of yourself. Nobody wants that. So, young girlies, I think guys do it too, but especially us girlies, because it's so easy. We stay busy with all our guy friends. And it takes a serious learning curve in your life to be like, I'm going to stop being, for lack of better terms, lazy. And I'm going to challenge myself to focus on relationships that are going to be more difficult. They're going to be harder to make plans with. I'm going to have to spend a lot of effort trying to follow up with them because they're just not going to be blowing up my phone. I'm going to have to actually pick up the phone and call them and see how their day is doing. And I'm going to have to hear some things I don't want to hear about myself. And I might actually have to work on them. And when I had that hard talk with myself, my life changed. And I remember going to this women's group in Seattle and being like, these girls are going to hate me. They're all probably pretty square. And they're all very, like, I'm sure they have perfect little lives. They're perfect little, perfect everything and perfect purses and have never done anything wrong in their lives. And I could not have been more incorrect. These were the most down to earth, incredible women. To this day are still some of my very strong friends. They're just all wanting to pursue the Lord. And they're all ready to show up and have other women iron sharpen iron with them. And so that being said, yes, every especially this later stage of my life, and I believe that's why I've done so well. I don't really have guy friends anymore. I can probably like I if I think really like I any of my guys from the past, I could probably call them and be like, you want to grab lunch? And it's not like any I didn't leave on bad terms, but I spend my time with women that are challenging me, that are pouring into me. So yeah, I think that is very important, and I learned that also from my grandma because I noticed this is a very happy woman, and she lost her husband very young and remained very happy. And I was like, what is she doing? And she has solid female friendships, and she always has. And I think that that is what has really, really kept her sharp and kept her happy. And she's very busy. You try to get in that woman's calendar, and it's very difficult. So I try to be like grandma.
Well, it sounds like you're doing a pretty good job. For transparency's sake here, I forgot to make a Google Calendar link. We connected, set up times. I mean, everything is established. I just didn't make the link. And then, time gets away. If it's not on the calendar, people, it doesn't exist from personal experience. I can tell you that is true and that's real. And I'm sure that's something that you have adopted from some of these women that are pushing you to do more and to do better, and
Yeah, I have
taken.
one girlfriend, we literally have a Google Calendar, like Zoom call date. Otherwise, it won't happen. And we have our set Zoom call, and it's in our calendars. Like, you become a calendar girly, and then life gets a lot easier because you don't have to remember anything. It's all in your calendar.
Oh, 100%. For me anyway, I do hey, Siri, remind me I have a call at 9 a.m. the night before, different thing. Like I don't have to touch it, I don't have to type it, I don't have to do anything, you know, um, and whatever it is, right? Pick up pasta from the store or remind me my flight leaves tomorrow, whatever, that's helped me a ton. But when I actually made the leap, they don't it's funny because now that I'm in Nashville, I'm able to see family that I haven't seen in a little over a year and haven't lived with for a very long time at this point. And we talk about it because no one ever would have guessed me growing up personally. If you knew me growing up when I was a child, I apologize sincerely because I was off the walls, and nobody ever would have guessed that I enjoy silent time, meditation, reading books, and long conversations. You just never would have guessed it for me as the individual. I was off the walls. I was the problem child. I was I mean, I put that on myself, to be perfectly honest with you. I was making the trouble. And those you talked about when going to the church and then, she's probably doing this or probably do it. I actually probably was doing those things, and I was always in trouble at school. So it is what it is. But then you step into, what you really feel, right? So one thing I wanted to ask here for you is with the travels that you do, right? Because you're in Cape Town now, or I don't know. Sorry, am I allowed to say that? Okay. Some people don't tell where they are until they leave the city. So got it. So you're in South Africa now, and and you live calendar based in a lot of ways. And I know that a lot of that has to do with your venture and your business and your partner that you have currently. How do you leave room for spontaneity?
Most things I can take from my computer. Like I don't have to, like this, for example, if I was at home, I would have my whole setup. I actually have my calendar here, but I didn't have the calendar invite, so I didn't set up my camera. But at home, I have like a mic and a camera and all of this. So, but other than like my podcast setup, like most of me is very portable. I keep it that way so that I can kind of just drop on the drop of a hat, just kind of move. I'm living out of a suitcase right now, and so Spontaneity is my middle name. I love the freedom. Yeah, but it is, I mean, there's definitely difficulty with the time zones can be difficult. I have an incredible tech team that helps me with that stuff. I stopped trying because I just messed it up so many times. So I just don't. I tell them I need an appointment with this person at this time in this country. I'm gonna let you do it because every time I do it, it gets messed up, you know. So yeah, so I actually have. I'm blessed because I do everything online. It's pretty easy to kind of fluctuate and do that from anywhere. And my clients are not, I'm not an attorney, so it's not life or death. If I tell them, can we make your schedule Thursday instead of Tuesday because I'm going to be on a flight, they're like, cool, so I'm very blessed with that. Um, and I'm taking advantage of it. I don't have a husband. I don't have kids. I do have a dog that I totally abandoned and feel very badly about that, but I'm going to be back to him very shortly. But he doesn't seem to mind. He's living his best life in Malibu. So, um, but yeah, I got rid of all of my bills. I have nothing. I have nothing that I have to worry about. I have no adult responsibilities, really, um, by design, because I had the opposite last year. I had all of the bills. I had rent and a car and the taxes and the 9 to 5 and the dog and like just the standard. And I was just like, absolutely not, never again. I don't know how people do it, and I commend them all, but I will never, ever again. I cannot. But I'm proud of myself for doing it, and I wouldn't be where I am today if I hadn't. But that is not the life for me. I am about spontaneity. I want to be able to, at any point in time, book a flight and get on it tomorrow. And I want to be able to book one ways and decide, you know what? Like, I booked to Thailand. I was only supposed to be there for like, I don't remember, 2 to 3 weeks. And then I was like, just stay another 2 to 3. Like, I just stayed, was there for a month, been here for almost 2 months, and then I decided, I think I'll go back to Thailand. So I'm just gonna go back to Thailand after this. Like I love freedom. I do not want anyone telling me that I have to be back by Monday, 9 a.m. to do something I could do from my computer in Thailand.
How did you come to the conclusion, or I guess the better word is realization, for this desire or need to travel so much? Was it the 9 to 5 that just you just felt like you needed to jump out of your skin the whole time, or what was it specifically about? Because most people when they do this, they're like, I don't know, whatever. Name anything, right? We're gonna go to Rome for a week and a half. It's different to be like, I'm going to Africa for a month and a half. Like that's a different, or Thailand, right? What made you want to do that?
Funny enough, actually, even the 9 to 5, like I said, I'm a very silver lining girly. I found ways to love that. I did. In the moment, I was like, this is great. As far as a 9 to 5, I had it made. I only had to go into the office once a week, even though it was 9 to 5. So I was working from my apartment the other 4 days, but I couldn't actually leave the state. Didn't love that. But it wasn't really it's partially what spurred it because I had always, the real answer to your question is I grew up a little bit in Prague when I was very young. My parents, like 1 or 2 years old, I was on a plane. So it's part of my nature. I went back to Italy for my 16th birthday when we were like 12 or 13. I think we went to Italy and all over Europe. Like, just, we've been traveling with my family my entire life. So travel is very comfy for me. It's not like scary or challenging. I definitely had never traveled to another country by myself before, so that was big for me this time. But I've always just really felt at home traveling. There's so much to learn, there's so much of the world to see. You only get to be here 100 years, you know? Like, why stay in the same spot and not learn about other cultures and other people and see other perspectives, and just broaden your horizons? And I think that if you want to badly enough, you can. Like, I've seen people do it on all spectrums, from all backgrounds, with all income levels. So for me, it's just really important. And it's also different for different people. Some people really need and love the structure of staying in one place and having the 9 to 5, and that is okay. I don't. So for me, yeah, I just was always kind of traveled a lot. The year before my 9 to 5, I had a boyfriend and his family traveled a lot. So we were in Alaska and Mexico, and he and I was like, I want to start a travel blog. So we went to like a different place every weekend, to the point where I was stressing us both out because I was like, we needed to be on the road constantly. And this and that. So we just did a ton of traveling. And so then when I all of a sudden stopped, like full halt, it's not like really full halt. I was traveling back and forth. I took my dog on a plane. I don't know how many times. So it's not like I really fully ever stopped traveling, but I went to like Seattle and then LA, and then like, I don't know, I think I did a like couple Airbnb trips like locally. Like, I still found a way to make it happen, but it was just not as like Thailand, not coming back. So I, during that year, yeah, was like, I miss that. That's a huge part of who I am. I don't like not being able to do that. What other options can I do to make this a thing? And so, yeah, so it just has worked out. I didn't plan on being in South Africa. My business partner lives in South Africa. So that's why I ended up coming over here. And then I had some people that I was working with that were doing content that were like, you should check out Thailand. Didn't even end up seeing them. Not really friends with them anymore. But I went to Thailand, and best decision I've ever made. I love it there. I just love it. The people are wonderful. They're kind. Everything's cheap. The food is good. There's water, like the beach, the sand. I can't rave about it enough. Everybody should go. But yeah, so it's just been a constant part of my life. I've been very blessed with a family that introduced me to traveling very young. The first time I went to Africa, I was in high school. My dad lived in Beijing, so I've been to Beijing. I've been to gosh, I'm trying to think. I have a couple more continents to hit for sure. I haven't been to Australia. I haven't been, there's places I haven't been, but the point is, it's always been a very normal thing for me, and it's a very important thing that I continue to integrate into my life. So I prioritize it.
That's how it is, right? You have to make it a priority. You have to make it chosen. And it's funny you said earlier the one-way ticket thing. I've told people that for almost 10 years now, that they're like, I want to go to Ireland, or I want to go here, I want to go there, and they'll throw that out there. And at this point, I know the difference between when someone has like a, as Earl Nightingale says, like a willful desire that they're never going to actually do, versus something they're actually serious. And I actually always tell people, buy a ticket, and then there's a little box that says refundable. Like, uncheck that, make it non-refundable. And if you buy it, it doesn't matter if it's 6 months out, 8 months out, 4 months out. If it's non-refundable, the likelihood of you going is like just 100%. You're gonna go, right? You just spent 1,500 bucks, 1,200, whatever, on that ticket. It's just unless there's like an act of God or natural, a reason for you not to, you're going, right? The worst question for experienced travelers everywhere, but I want to ask it anyway. Do you have a place that is specific to your heart that you miss? That is just every time you land, you're like, I love this. Your favorite travel place.
Italy. Italy, hands down.
Anywhere in Italy in particular?
Just all of it. I just love Italy. I love the food. I love the people, like everything. You can just eat carbs and ice cream all day and lose weight. I don't know what happens. It's just magic. It's just phenomenal. It's the best place in the world. I am convinced. I would definitely live there for a stint, or at least enjoy a long stint of time there. Probably not forever, but I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed with Italy.
How'd you make your way to South Africa?
So, as I said, I met my business partner in a online class similar to the one that we sell now, and we just connected, same goals, and I was like, well, I have to come see you. So, gonna get on a plane, and here I am.
Nice. That's Africa's the most underrated travel place that I've ever been multiple times.
You know, I haven't done a lot of traveling stuff here. I've just kind of been, and I'm getting a lot of slack for it. But it's because we're so focused on the business that, and it's so much like California that I'm like, what do I have to see? Another beach? I've seen a beach. Like, I would love to go dive with sharks. I'm trying to do that, make that happen. But I'm also like, if I don't, I probably saved a surfer. So,
Yeah, right. That's it's a weird. You're like cognitive dissonance, right? Do I swim with sharks? Do I save his leg? Hmm. Yeah. Um, that's funny because when the first time we met, you're like, I might be in West Africa. I'm not necessarily sure. You're kind of the spontaneity that we mentioned earlier seems to be very ingrained in you at the moment. Something I've heard you say before is the necessity of a plan. So obviously, things ebb and flow. There are seasons of life. So it sounds like this season, now that you've hit resonance or alignment, that you are, just full force going after it to reach people and very purpose driven on what you're doing with, La Viva and different things that you guys are putting together. It sounded to me that your business partner is the planning one, the the milestone one, right? And she kind of keeps you on track. No.
I adore her and she has many talents. That not being one of them. I'm more of the planning bee. As spontaneous as I am, I'm very calculated. I'm into calculated risks. And because I've seen how social media works and numbers work, I do understand and believe in structure. Um, so I kind of have formulated what we do, and we work together in getting it done. But we're both very ADHD, so we're both always being like, focus, 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 and we really help each other. And we both always, one of us always seems to like, flutter off right when the other one is focused and then helps us to bring it back. But we are definitely, our first move is going to be getting like a CFO, and, very type A type of person is going to be the very next woman to join the team because neither of us are type A at all. But I am the more of the planny type of one. So I try to put us on a schedule of when we're going to release things, create marketing plans, this and that, and the other, and then we go for it. We kind of uh, share the responsibilities in almost every category at this point. So that's been a huge blessing. I never thought I would meet someone that I really truly feel like is an extension of myself. Um, I could send her into a room where I know there is a client that is hurting and that I want to support in a very real way. I could send her into that room and know that that client would feel as heard and seen and loved as if I was to go in there myself. And that to me is the most important thing in the world. And she loves the Lord. She has the same mission, same goal, same purpose. She's been through a lot and has continued to um, just pursue God and trust Him, that and use her pain to help others blossom and grow and thrive. And I just have an immense amount of respect for her. So I'm very blessed to have connected with her. But yeah, we pretty much 50-50 the responsibilities, but she's more of the breath work and healing side of things, and I'm more of the like talk therapy, masculine feminine energy dating advice type side of things.
What is that mission and purpose that you guys share?
To help people become the best version of themselves and to feel the happiness that we feel now. Our biggest thing is to show up. That's our motto really, is just show up and let the Lord do the rest. Show for yourself, and first, so then you can show up for others. But we use the word freedom a lot because that is the key, right? Is true freedom. Freedom from whatever the ropes that are tying you down. You may be holding them yourself. You may have put yourself in those handcuffs. Like, we want to free you, help people get the freedom from whatever is binding them. And that can be feeling like they're not enough, hurting from past traumas, an unhealthy relationship, right, is where it stemmed from. Both of us have that past. But it blossomed into something so much greater, especially because I came out being like, I'm going to help women. And then only men came to me. And I was like, ugh. And I had to reframe my thinking. Now we train people to reframe thinking. And I realized there's so many men that are not being heard, that are not being seen, that are being put into this box. And we as women are saying, don't put us into a box, but they're being put into a box too. And so I started realizing like this is an equally beautiful mission, is to be there for these men and show them how to um, receive love and to feel like they are loved and they are okay and that there is possibilities and there is love out there. And so yeah, our purpose is really just to serve people. I would love to do that with my music as well. So right now I'm doing it with both platforms, but we are serving people through Live Viva in that we give them the tools to become the best version of themselves no matter what they're going through and no matter where they have come from.
So what would be like one or two of those tools?
So one of them is breath work, which Kate does the breath work, and it's incredibly powerful. The healing from trauma, PTSD, the list goes on, is just really, really impeccable. There is just deep trauma that lives in our bodies that as we've everyone's more talking about it these days, which is beautiful. And so not people aren't so like, ugh, therapy, ugh, knowledge, and so now we realize that trauma is also generational, right? So we're working on breaking these generational cycles, and moving into spaces that are more honoring to ourselves, and those around us. So that is one incredible tool that we offer. Like I said, I do a lot of coaching. Is another a really important tool that I think is just for being able to hear people and for them to be able to talk because they don't have anyone to talk to. And another thing is journaling, giving people again the ability to talk, whether it's on paper or to me or to a friend, but learning to speak because depression is depressing, right? We're taking all these hurts and their pains and we're pushing them down. When you release them to another friend, onto paper, burn it, whatever it is, when you get that hurt out is when you heal. And you have to feel it to heal it. So those are two really big tools, but we have created a whole online course with lots of tools. We do a lot of hand holding, a lot of praying over people and guiding and just kind of showing up um, for wherever the hurt is to help them heal it.
Do you find that I've heard you say this in the past, but there's less of a reluctancy to speak spiritually now more than ever, or speak woo, for lack of better words, even if you're not necessarily a Christian, to speak woo woo, right? If that makes any sense, or whatever expression, do you find that as well in what you do?
100%. I mean, I remember when I first started doing Christian music, and then all of a sudden people started doing Christian music, and it was cool. And I was like, I've been doing this. I should have done that first. I should have pushed my stuff harder, you know. But I was also like, I'm not going to be mad that Jesus is trending, you know, like, because then more people get Jesus, and that's the goal, you know. But like, yeah, 100%. Everyone wants to be spiritual and like, you know, angel numbers and all the things, and I'm for it. Whatever it takes, let's go, you know. I appreciate it. You know, I don't even think that positivity can be used wrong. I don't think it can. You know, you can't like smack someone with a kiss like it's a kiss, you know?
Yeah, 100%. I'm finding that same thing, and I'm finding that worldwide at the moment. And it's not just, I think, as Americans, we can get into our American bubble. Um, Probably more than anywhere else. Maybe it's just because of the natural oceans, culturally, petrodollar, where the reserve currency, so it kind of revolves around Hollywood and us and all of that. But I am really, really seeing this happen worldwide at the current moment. If I can ask briefly, purely out of curiosity, you had mentioned you get reached out to quite a bit. Why did you respond to me, or what made you even hop on here?
I try my best to respond to everyone. I really do. I don't get to all of them, but we do, and Kate helps me, we do try to respond to everyone. Um, because, you know, you just never know. I don't respond to the ones that are bad, for lack of better words. Um, but yeah, yeah, and when I heard the podcast, any way to share what we have, I'm excited to do because I want to share what we have to offer. So hopefully we can help someone out there. Our door is always open. Like this is my platform is Jesus's house. It's not mine. I'm just a vessel here to love on people and show them what I've learned and why I'm so happy. And people 9 times out of 10 come to me and they're like, "How are you so happy?" And I'm just here to tell you how. And it's not me. It's not my own efforts. It is all Jesus. It is all God. It is all grace. And I have a couple cool tools to help you make it easier. And so yeah, yeah.
Mm. So you had just mentioned there, it's all God, it's all grace, it's all Jesus, but at the same time, you've been through a lot. You've had quite significant experiences, like we even mentioned, or both positive and negative, right? We even mentioned living, what I think you said, 25 movies worth in these short couple decades of life here. But nevertheless, there is a difference between share your problems with me. I want to help you overcome situations versus I've been through some of the fire. I get it. And let me share that with you, right? Talk to me about that a little bit and feel free to gloss over whatever you want or go as deep as you want. But I do think it's important to highlight that there is experience in that. There is a molding process in that, especially for someone who might be in that situation themselves.
Yeah, 100%. And that's why I went into this space thinking it was going to be just for girls because I didn't think guys would want to ask me for advice because I'm not a guy, but I ended up finding out that guys want to know how women think, right? And I am one of those. So that's been neat. But originally I got into very abusive relationships, sexually abusive, physically abusive, beyond everything else, mentally abusive. So much so that I still deal with trauma, PTSD, anxiety, panic attacks. I passed out. I had seizures, like all sorts of things today from these relationships. And so looking back at my younger self, right, as you're saying, like things happen for a reason, and I wouldn't be able to assist women in the ways that I can now because I've been through it, I've seen it, and I know you can get out of it because I did, and I am happy now, and I am free of all of that, and I can't even imagine, and it's still scary. It still happens every once in a while. I almost fell back into a cycle not long ago with someone, but I identified now what it was, and I'm not going back to that life because now I know better. And so I'm trying to equip women with these tools. And also, I think that our culture, I know that I was guilty of it, has this habit of being like, well, why would you stay? Well, why would you stay if he hit you? Well, he did this and that. Like, why? Well, it's you. You're the problem. No. Like, yeah, in a way, you are responsible to break the cycle, and only you can do it. But you are not the problem. It is not like you're broken. You are not broken. Um, it takes a very long time and a lot of grooming for these men to brainwash you, gaslight you, and make you think that, break you down to nothing so that your only happiness can come from hearing their approval. And it starts with love bombing. So a lot of girls don't know to look out for the guys that are being super nice to you. What? Like, so especially naive ones, especially savior complex type of people are the number one people that these guys go for. We are the number one target, an easy target. Young, I was 18 years younger than the guy who was abusing me. Like, he knew what he'd done. I was like round 17. This was like old history for him. He had done this to so many women by the time he got to me. I had no idea this stuff even existed. I didn't even know what the word gaslighting meant. So my main mission originally was to set out to help women going through those types of things that don't know what to do or don't know where to go and don't feel heard, and people are just telling them, well, it's your fault. So yeah, I have been through those things. But I also, um, I feel like it's important to, coming from all my experiences, to just, I look at my younger self, right? And I remember being at a point where I was like, I want to have a story. I want a testimony. Careful what you ask for. And it's also important that girls see that, like, you don't need to go through crazy stuff for life to be good. You can also just chill and appreciate simplicity in life, because eventually that's where you're gonna end up. And you're gonna end up seeing that there's such beauty in calmness and simplicity in in the day-to-day tasks, in a simple picnic, in the quiet. And so I find that because of everything I've been through, I have the unique ability of being able to reach most people on in different levels. And Kate has gone through her own completely different battles. She lost her husband, who literally passed away. Like, she's gone through a lot. So she's also able, and she's also in she's a recovered addict, so she's able to connect with people in that way that I could never connect with. So together we have a really unique ability to speak into a lot of different stories from experience. And then I also feel like in today's culture, there's a lot of like, and I'm still working through and working on this now. There's such extremes, right? And as I mentioned before, when I was younger, I dealt with that a lot. Like, oh, well, you're bad, you're good. Well, it just gets magnified as you get older. Prude, slut, this, that. No one wants you. Everyone wants you. Like, just such extremes. And so I really am about promoting um, communication, grace, gentleness, kindness with ourselves, because we are so hard on ourselves. And you can only be as kind to another as you are to yourself. So I'm really about taking everything from all of my experiences, even my shame, right? And it's not like I am in a place where I'm perfect now. I think it's very important. I remember a pastor talking in one sermon about it's so easy to talk about the things I used to. But for me, I try to use this platform to say I'm still messing up currently. And I'm still posting bikini pictures, and people are like, well, you should have your. No, I should not have it together, because I'm still human and I'm still making mistakes. Not to say that wearing a bikini is a mistake. You get the analogy. So I'm trying to show up vulnerable and show up real and be like, this is what I'm currently working through. Some of the workbooks I'm working on right now are workbooks that I am currently working through. As I said, I almost fell back into an abusive relationship very, very not long ago. Very, very, you know what I mean? Very recently was the word I was going for. So it's these things still happen. You don't get healed and then all of a sudden then you can help people. I think it's important to show up where we are and to be vulnerable and be real about the things that we still struggle with. And so that's what I try to do. And I hope that that makes me more approachable, but I also risk having people be like, well, you don't have it all together yet, so you don't know. And I rather that than people come to me who think I have it all together and don't feel like they can really talk to me because I have it together and they don't.
It's funny. So I just one of the reasons why I came to Nashville, I just finished a 7 day retreat with Dr. Joe Dispenza. I went to one of his retreats, and I was really blown away by his humility, and he doesn't, I guess, of course, it's his retreat, right? So he's on stage and he's talking, but at the same time, he does an amazing job of not making it all about him. It's not a spotlight on me, I'm dancing in front of everyone, rah, rah, rah. But he's just really clear, throughout the whole process. It's like, I really don't want you guys to make this about me. This is about you. I'm not in your head when you do these prayers and meditation at all. It's gonna be just you. I am just a guy, right, that loves God, and I'm trying to share truth that I've learned over the years, and that's it. Don't make this about me. And that's what I'm hearing from you in this whole process. And it's funny because you even mentioned if I just think numbers, right? You talked about how you're like numbers and planning sometimes. If you just thought numbers and business growth, and cut me off, tell me I'm wrong. But it sounds to me the moment logically that you got vulnerable and started sharing these experiences and the ways to improve from the experiences instead of sulking on them, right? Not that you sulk, but a lot of people can. That's when you actually had the growth in the alignment that we talked to earlier. So even logically speaking, the numbers skyrocketed when you did get that vulnerability out, right? And start sharing that. And I think this can really go back to the same thing as going from 3,000 to 10,000 followers of, it gets lonelier and lonelier unless you look in and you see that one person screaming for help or that three people or however big the number is, right? It's so easy today, whether you're even working in the online space or not, it's so easy today more than ever to isolate, or even if you're not isolated, to feel isolated, right? And one of the things I wanted to ask that you mentioned a while ago was getting around the people, right? Show me your friends, I'll show you your future. How do you get around those people? It sounds like you've bought your way into courses and masterminds. Obviously, you talked about Think and Grow Rich as well, and you're reading. How do you keep this, engine going in your mind?
So it's definitely, and I'm actually working on this. This is something I'm currently going through. So I'm glad that you brought this up. Um, I feel like in some ways, um, we are like a snake and we have to keep shedding skin as we level up. And there's going to be people that are going to stick with you, and there's going to be some you're going to have to let go as you go to that next level if they're not going to go with you. You can't pull everyone along with you. But I think that it's also important to not. So I have my tendency is to be, and I'm studying it more and more, um, a anxious attached personality type. So what we will do is in our minds we either love someone or kill them. And so they're either all good or all bad. So with friendships, I've had a tendency to be like, you're amazing, you're my everything, and then I'm just done with you. So now I'm working on there's people, places, and there's different areas of life that your friends belong in, and what are in the same way as a relationship, what are my deal breakers? What are my absolutely must haves in a person? What are my absolutely deal breakers I will not put up with in a person. And as long as they have those core values, maybe they're not leveling up as hard. But that's okay. That doesn't mean they just need to be cut out of your life. Maybe there's just another place. And the conclusion that I've come to lately is that there are three sections for people in your life. There are your mentors, the people that are pouring into you, which are important because you have to be challenged to grow. And grateful to them that they're hanging out with someone lesser than them, right? So they're allowing someone lesser than them is kind of a weird way to put it, but you know what I mean? That's not where they are to be. They're spending their time on you by pouring into you. So you also have to need to have the equivalent, someone slightly lower that you're pouring into. And then you have to have the people that are right on your level. The iron sharpens iron, the everyday check-ins that maybe not every day, but the people that you guys are both, pretty much the same, and you're challenging each other and keeping each other accountable, your accountability buddies. And I think that those three sections are very important, but you can't have too many in in the bottom section. Really, you can't really have too many mentors. Mentors are, well, that you can have too many mentors too, because you don't want to be torn in a bunch of different directions. I think it's important to like have 3 to 5 people that you get really solid advice from, so that you're not too torn all over the place. But yeah, where you get them, it's the same as where you find a high value partner. It's a lot about what's going on here. And that's what I mean by the snake leveling up. You can be in a grocery store or in a nightclub or in a coffee shop in the corner with your headphones on. If your energy is right, if you're focused on the right things, if you are pursuing your purpose, you're going to attract the right people and you are going to repel the wrong ones, no matter where you are. So I think that I really believe in the universe, and energy will bring those people into your life. And it might be in a parking lot, or it might be at church. But say that you're only going to find the right person in church or in, a spinning class because they also like spinning, is just not accurate. I don't believe that to be true. As I'm coaching, I was telling everyone, like, don't do the apps and don't meet someone on Instagram. You're destined to fail that way. You should meet someone doing an activity you love, like at the gym, and you should have them vetted and know them through a friend. And I was like so set on this and thought that, again, pride comes before the fall. Yeah, and we have to, like, as I said, I'm still learning. We're all still learning. No one knows everything, thank God. But that's literally how I met the person that almost trapped me back into my cycle. Like, all the right ways, doing all the right things. I met someone that because I was doing all the right things, they took me by surprise and I did not see it coming and I got blindsided. But because I'm in my frame, because I'm in alignment, I was able to immediately be like, this is not good, this is not good, this is not good. And I saw the red flags, right? And I was able to pivot. And then as I went back into my frame and back into my right place and focused on myself and focused on my purpose, like giving into my people, using my energy on my clients, loving on people, pouring into people in a DM, there's Prince Charming, right? So, and I literally just said, you're not going to find Prince Charming in a DM. And God goes, haha, you thought, So you just don't know. But I think it is, again, it's important to know and to be in your frame. In that same situation, in a situation that I said, you can't meet a guy in this situation, I went back to my list, right? I went back to my red flags and my core concepts and my deal breakers, and he had only green flags. So it really doesn't matter where you meet someone. You can meet someone anywhere, and so it's going to be the same with your friends. If you are attracting party girls and you are smoking a joint on a corner, you're going to probably attract people that are going to want to do the same thing and match that energy. But if you are reading your Bible and, post a story, And then, someone else sees that you're doing that, even though you could be in the same exact location, but what you're giving out, the energies you're giving out, are the energies that are going to be matched, whether that's friends or love interests or what have you. So I do think that it all comes back to the work that's going on in here.
Yeah, the more I've dove in, like I said, I was originally when I found Joe Dispenza, I was reluctantly curious, or skeptically curious, I should say, talking about energy centers and energies and different things. And the more I dove in, the more, we operate on habits and neurons and routines, and cycles is a better way, or a better way of saying it. A habit is just an unconscious repetition, right? Cycle, anything. Which hands you use for toothbrush, right? Like what side of the bed you roll off in the morning. Like it's all the same. It's just a cycle, whether it's a long cycle or short cycle, it doesn't really matter. But the same thing applies in seasons. We call them seasons or cycles of life in longer term, 3 months, 6 months. So when you say changing your energy, or the energy you're putting out there, it's like, I think you even said actually in this conversation earlier that we repeat the same things until we evolve out of them, right? Do you feel that you graduated from the old energy because you had the same cycle coming up, and then you caught yourself with your red flags and responded differently, which is, in Joe's words, the unknown? You stepped into a new repetitious pattern, right? And kind of evolved out of that. And do you feel like you kind of like energetically graduate? I don't know another way. Do you know what I'm saying here?
No, yeah, I see what you're saying. And I think that it's a big part of it, right, is gaining trust in ourselves, right? So if someone continues to tell you that they're going to take you out to dinner and then they keep standing you up, you're going to stop trusting them. Well, the same is true with ourselves. And if I keep telling myself I'm not going to allow myself to be treated this way, and then I continue to allow myself to be treated this way, I lose trust for myself. So I was a bit disappointed in this last time the way that I was allowing someone to treat me. Granted, is it as extreme? No. It was just some simple flaking and this and that, but my standards are much higher now. And I believe that you are correct in that I I responded differently than I would have. And I do believe that myself 4 years ago would probably be dating that person right now, because I would have gone in as they would have. My dynamic is that wounded person um, goes for me, sees the light in me, almost always says, "You're such a light," blah blah blah. So they see me, so they chase me, and then they retreat to get me to chase, because I don't like, because my anxiously attached, I don't like when someone pulls away. Then my instinct of, you don't love me because you just said you love me and now you don't. So now I need to prove to myself that I'm worthy of you. So I chase. And this time when they retreated, I said, "Thank God." And I stopped and I blocked them on everything. And I didn't chase. And I didn't continue showing up to something to go back to the snake that bit me. And at first, when it first happened, I had this moment where I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't graduate. I failed the test. I allowed this to happen again, and I shouldn't have. And it was actually Kate that was like, no, you didn't. No, you didn't, because you reacted different. You did react different this time. My old self would have chased after. And so, as much as I am grateful that the Lord allowed them to retreat, right? Even though I didn't push them, they retreated on their own, right? But the Lord gave me the strength, and my practices and my reframing of my brain gave me the strength and the courage to not chase, which is what I used to do. So it is definitely, I'm grateful for the lessons that I've learned, and that I'm really grateful too. I just feel like I've been, we call it, what is it called? An incubator. Kate and I feel like we've been in an incubator just as protection from the Lord over the past year, where no one has been able to come close enough to hurt me. And I honestly believe that it's just because I prayed for it. I said, Lord, like, just reveal to me who they are immediately. And every single relationship I have gotten into, or not, I haven't been in a relationship because of this. Every single time I've gone on a date or started talking to anyone, very quickly it was revealed to me and I was able to walk away. So I have not been in a relationship in 2 years. Um, so I do think that if you show up for yourself, yeah, and you're not always going to feel like you passed the test, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But just by making a little bit of a different decision, those tiny little decisions, 1% a day does make 100% different.
Oh, yes. I think, sometimes people in their own lives don't recognize their own growth and whatnot. And sometimes it can feel fairly distant. Even when we do recognize our own growth, it's hard. It's like the guy that's chasing the dream and you can see her with her music or him to be an athlete and you're looking from the outside and it's like, oh, they should just change this and that, and I can see that it's so much easier to see that sometimes than it is with ourselves. So really to bring this 1% home, this philosophy of 1% growth a day home, to make it feel very practical to people, what I've always said is the United States, I try to relate to something that everyone can relate to, and it's terrible, and they hate, and they're frustrated right now. The Federal Reserve wants 3% inflation per year. And you go, that's not a lot. 1% growth a day. That's not like a lot. If you did 3% inflation per year in 25 years, your dollar's value is half. It's half. So you go, that affects, and that's quite painful for my bank account. And now it makes it more practical. You go 1% growth is not like that really adds up. So the amount of pain that you would feel if your dollar was half as valuable in only 25 years, right, for a country's lifespan is not that much. 1% growth. Making those adjustments in those cycles and those patterns are just absolutely massive. And I think, so vulnerability, and on the spirit of vulnerability here, this week alone, the same scheduling error that I've had happened twice to me. And you used the word flaky. And the first person earlier this week, I had two meetings that I got mixed up, and I literally just got out of this seminar that I purposely put walls and blocks on all sides, didn't talk to anyone whatsoever, got out, and I had a meeting that I totally missed. And I literally used the word with them and I told them, like, it is a massive pet peeve of mine when people are flaky. This was a genuine accident. I'm so sorry. I want to work. I want to make this work. We ended up doing it. It's going to be fantastic. But in the spirit of vulnerability, this is the second time in a row. Quinton needs to make a change on the scheduling, and something needs to be put in place to, whether it's someone else or me myself, reminding myself that link, that Google link or Calendly, whatever, something needs to be put in place. So I'm going to be doing that today at some point. And that cycle needs to break because just as you said, that is a true, for me, that's a massive pet peeve. It's just flaking. Is something about that. And I'll have to do some more deep reflection about why specifically. But what can I want to hear pretty soon here because you've been hyper generous with your time, and I want to thank you very much for it. I'm going to go into some rapid fire, some quick questions, but before I do, um, where do you want to take this with what you guys are doing? Live Viva. Where do you want to take it?
Oh gosh, wherever God wants to take it, right? Because when we make plans, God laughs. But in an ideal world, we would love to have a retreat in. I would like to have one in Thailand, and we would like to have one in Costa Rica. And then we would like the community just grow. And I would love eventually to do concerts so that I can, be singing again and get back into still, like I said, promoting my music, but incorporate the two because they're both along the same lines. We just wanted to grow and to help as many people as possible, and just have I don't really know that conventions is the thing, but like retreats, like very fun, almost like positive raves type of you know what I mean, like big exciting life-changing events, and just change as many lives as we can. And I see the company going to a place where I want it to be mental health that is immediately available to everyone through our app. We are hoping to have an app.
So quick rapid fire here. And some of them might feel like, oh my gosh, there is no way I'm going to boil this down, and whatnot. But start off light. Give me three books that everyone needs to read.
Hmm. Think and Grow Rich, Boundaries, and How We Love.
Okay, Boundaries and How We Love. Beautiful. That's my secret question, which is mostly for me. And if other people want to read them, great, but I'm totally going to. So, Boundaries and How We Love, I've never read. Wonderful. Somebody's in a situation that you found yourself, that old cycle in. What is their first step? Because I think that's the hardest for everyone, is they think, I got to get out of this, but there's so many steps that need to take place to get out of certain situations. What's the first one?
Physically leave. Run. Don't walk, run. Physically leave. Because similar, our brains stay. We see, everyone knows right after a breakup, you're like, oh, that McDonald's reminds me of him. You know, like everything reminds you of the person, you know? So physically leaving, changing your environments, changing your surroundings and who you're around is the fastest way. Even if you have a job so you can't move, go on vacation. Get out of this physical situation so that you can change your frame and remember, oh, I had a beautiful life before this person. Would you look at that? Forgot about that. I actually kind of liked that life. And then it really helps to reframe. And surround yourself with people that are going to hold you accountable and hold up that mirror and want the best for you.
Scripture that's really on your heart right now that you're diving into more than others.
I've been doing guided. We did a guided meditation, a guided breath work, and a workbook on forgiveness, on forgiving ourselves and forgiving others. And there's this constant theme of freedom, which I've been speaking about, which we use the word freedom to ask people. It's our way of having people tell us they're interested in working with us. And the sermon yesterday was on freedom, and so he was talking about forgiveness, faith, fruit, and love. And he brought up Galatians 5:13 through 15. And I can't remember exactly what it was, but it's talking about trust over trepidation. And that the Lord brings the fruit of his love through his presence. And it's just talking about letting go and forgiving. And I ended up the sermon just in tears because I have someone in my life that I realized I was really holding back some deep healing for myself because I hadn't forgiven them yet. And it's going to, one thing that really stuck out to me is that we have to constantly forgive. It's not like a one time you forgive that person. You have to keep forgiving them over and over. And they're probably going to keep hurting you. But there are certain people that you have to make a choice to continue to forgive them because you love them so much. And, you know, Christ first forgave us, so we forgive others. And I think that that is true freedom, is not being trapped by ourselves, which goes back to what we teach, right? Not being trapped by our thoughts, our insecurities, our fears, reframing our thinking and leaning into God and surrendering control and trusting His plans. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful outcome and a very freeing, peaceful place to be when you're able to tie all those concepts together.
What's probably the biggest thing, spiritually specific, that you've gained from travel?
Spiritually from travel, it's given me a lot more, again, back to humility. We're constantly being humbled. Um, more of a heart for people, and made me just realize that, although we have so much in America, we're so stressed out and we're so anxious, and there's so much unhappiness, and there's so much jealousy, and there's deceit, and there's lack of morals. And when you travel, you'll see some of the most simple people with living these simple, very difficult lives are way happier than, the couple that haven't spoken and live in the same mansion in the last 15 years.
Well, I mean, you gotta think, man, I'm ruining my rapid fire here, but we gotta think w- we're doing something wrong here. And I don't think it's just social media. I don't think it's just the healthcare system. I don't think it's just the financial system. I don't think it's just moral decay, right? And I'm not saying any of those things are in a good situation right now. But when I look around, I see the same thing. I see the same thing and I'm confused. I'm confused because I'm like, I don't, it's because it's not a button fix. And when I say button, I don't even mean quick fix. I mean, it's not one thing. It's not one thing that I just mentioned. It's all of those things. It's just coming from all angles at the current moment, right? And I think spirituality, God, has lost its place. And God is not confused about his own place. We misplaced him. We displaced God, and there's a difference there. So, it's interesting you say that because I find something very similar. So, like I said, I'm kind of ruining my own rapid fire here, but what can we expect from your music?
So thank you. Thanks for asking. I'm just continuing to release music. I have one or two more bangers up my sleeve, and I'm hoping to make some music videos on them before I drop them. But I'm hoping to just get more vulnerable with my music as well, and just be dropping more of my story and the many movies that I've lived through little songs, because each one of them are basically a little piece of my story. And so there's more stuff coming, and I'm trying to post my music more on my Chelsko music page. So looking forward to that.
My wife is also an artist and has, battled. I'm going to ask one more thing here, but she's really battled the balance between loving her music, wanting to tour, wanting to do these things, but having other passions. Where also there's real life that hits you. Also there's financial situations. Also there's self-doubt, and there's like I can't get whatever, whatever, whatever. You know what I mean? So I literally live with the dichotomy of an artist and the mental battle that they have in a positive way throughout that. What has music done for you that makes it your outlet? You even mentioned that earlier. It is your release in a lot of ways. Why?
I mean, it's the same as journaling. Like, that's why I say, like, talk to someone, get it out. For me, I go into that booth, or I get a pen and paper and I write down what I'm going through. And I am an artistic brain, so that action of getting it out, that action of singing, like crying in the booth in a safe place alone, or on stage, even though I'm in front of a bunch of people, I'm really like alone with the light. You know what I mean? Like, it's just me, and I'm being heard and understood, and just getting my message out there in a way that is healing. And it's very, very therapeutic for me. And my computer is gonna die soon, so just
No,
heads up.
no. Well, 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 Chelsko, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me. Thanks so much.